and that is James McAvoy. McAvoy? My God, what is wrong with names today? Split is written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. I always struggle with how to say that, but I'm going to go with Shyamalan. And basically, the story of Split is James McAvoy plays a man who kidnaps 3 young girls and holds them captive. What we learn early on about the film and about James McAvoy's character is that he has dissociative identity disorder, which basically means he has 23 different personalities in his mind at one time. And we kind of join James as he's kidnapped these girls and hold them captive, and there seems to be an emergence of a 24th personality, and we kind of get to know that this 24th personality that may or may not emerge is called the Beast. M. Night Shyamalan had a great kind of early career with films such as Sixth Sense, Unbreakable and Signs, but then of recent he's kind of dropped off the radar and a lot of his films have been a bit subpar. But after seeing the trailer for Split, I was quite excited by it and I was hoping it was going to be a return to form for him. So let's talk about the good and bad points, and then at the end I'll give you my overall rating for the film. So let's go. So there's only one place to start with the good points, and that's James McAvoy and his character. Basically, as a whole, James McAvoy steals the show in this film. He's exquisite in his role. Obviously there's 23 different characters that are in the character's mind and he has to play, but we see probably half a dozen full force characters, if that makes sense. But he plays each character so perfectly. Each character has little subtleties that separates them from another, which allows you to kind of invest in each personality, and it makes them different from the next, and he plays that so well. Like every character he goes fully into, and it's just brilliant. And then there's a scene at the end where he's kind of, it's a standalone scene and he's going through all the characters in his brain, and just the way he like quickly changes into different characters is just an amazing feat. And I cannot heap enough praise on James McAvoy in this film. When he's not in scenes, the film actually kind of dips, and then when he comes back in, you kind of re-engage and you think, right, let's get on with this. So James McAvoy as a whole, I can't give him enough plaudits for this role and the way he perceived it, so that is a good. For another good point, I want to talk about a bit of a geeky side of filmmaking, and that is actually the musical score in this film. It's very subtle throughout the film, and it kind of creeps in each scene, so you don't even notice it's there because obviously you're fixated on what's going on screen, especially when James McAvoy's on screen. But what it does well is it just builds and builds through each scene to bring up the tension, and then comes in with a big kind of crescendo at the end if it's needed in the scene. And just the way it kind of delves in and out of the film just works perfectly. And I think without this particular film score, Split as a whole would lose a lot of its tension, and I think the film score and the film itself just is a perfect relationship, and it works really, really well together. So that's definitely a good as well. So I want to talk about the story itself. In previous reviews on other films, I've kind of talked about how stories are quite thin in some films, and I want more from it. With the subject matter in Split, obviously dealing with kind of mental illness and multiple personalities, the story could be vast, and I think M. Night Shyamalan as a director purveys it quite well. He delves into kind of the mental illness side and the darkness of it essentially in the right way, but also he knows when to kind of bring a bit of relief to the audience and give a bit of essentially comedy into what is a serious film. As one of his personalities, James McAvoy plays a 9-year-old boy, and in some scenes it's quite funny, but it's worked very well, and you know when to laugh. It's not like an awkward moment when you think, should I be laughing at this, or is it a bit weird, or whatever. But yeah, as I say, the way that M. Night Shyamalan kind of deals with the serious side, but then also injects a bit of comedy into it, works perfectly. And I think he delves enough into the mental illness side without kind of confusing the viewer, and does enough just to keep them engaged, but give enough information as well to make you kind of care about James McAvoy's character and what he's going through. And the same with the people who are held captive, their side of the story, especially the main female in it. You really kind of delve into how she's feeling, and you get a bit of backstory about her, which helps you kind of engage with her throughout the film. So the story as a whole, I think M. Night Shyamalan deals with it really well. It's an intense subject matter, and he kind of delves in when he needs to and pulls back when he needs to as well. And for me, I was completely engaged throughout the whole film, which is quite rare these days because I see so many films. There's some points normally that I kind of just zone out for a couple of minutes or whatever, but with this, I was very intrigued to kind of learn more about James McAvoy's character, learn more about the situation, and kind of keep engaged till the end. I went with my 18-year-old niece, and I kind of looked at her halfway through the film, and she was just absolutely fixated on the screen. And I think that is a great sign of a great film, and I felt exactly the same. It just worked really well and kept me engaged right till the end, which every good film should. So I'm going to talk about another quick geeky thing about film, and that is the cinematography of this film. The director of photography was Michael Goulakis, who worked also on It Follows, which is another great kind of horror thriller film. And I understand that M. Night Shyamalan was intent on working with Michael Goulakis on this film, and it pays off. Like the camera work and that, there's some really obscure shots, especially in the beginning when we're learning about James McAvoy's character, and it just, again, along with the musical score and the story, it just all pulls together to kind of keep you fixated on what's happening. And when you work in film, you realise kind of the subtleties that are needed in certain films and in certain scenes to just elevate it. And Michael Goulakis does this in abundance in this film, so I cannot highly say enough how good that was. So that's definitely another good. Finally, I want to keep this review a spoiler-free review, so it's quite hard to delve too much into the plot and especially talk about the ending. Of course, if you've seen a lot of M. Night Shyamalan films, you know there's generally a twist at the end. I will say there may be a twist at the end of this one, but overall the ending and how it worked, it was perfect. Now, I will precursor that with saying that some people will get the ending and some people won't. If you get it, it is amazing. It gave me goosebumps when I saw it. If you don't get it, you may need to kind of do a bit of research about certain subjects and that, and then it will give a kind of new meaning to the ending. That's all I'm going to say. I cannot say any more. But for me, personally, the ending was a good, so I'm definitely going to give that another good. Now I'm going to talk about the bad quickly, and the bad, ironically, is, although I've just talked about how good the ending was, I'm going to talk about the bad points of the ending. Now, being an M. Night Shyamalan film, and I've said this just now, if you've seen a lot of his films, you expect a twist. I was expecting a twist in this film. The twist I was expecting didn't happen, and I felt a bit deflated by it, I would say. The film overall is great. It works really well. But the overall story arc didn't pan out how I kind of wanted it to or envisioned. Maybe I thought too much about what the director was trying to achieve and kind of built up this scenario in my head, and that's what let me down because it wasn't fulfilled how I wanted it to. But as a bad, this is kind of like just a personal thing for me, and it's very nitpicky. I think like it could have gone a completely different direction to what it did, and I would have really enjoyed that. But yeah, as I say, it's just a completely personal thing to me. You know, when you watch a film and you kind of go through it and you build up this big ending in your mind, and then it doesn't happen, and you feel a bit like, oh, okay, yeah, and it just confuses you and kind of catches you off guard. And that was kind of the main bit about this film that I felt was bad, just from personal experience. So I'm going to have to give that a bad, the ending. However, overall, this film is amazing. It really kind of reinvigorated my love for M. Night Shyamalan. I loved his films when I was younger, like Signs and as I said, The Sixth Sense. They were just brilliant because they had this impact to them. And this has an impact as well. So overall, the shining light in this film is James McAvoy. He is this film. That's him. You know, I'm doing this review before the Oscars have been nominated, and I don't know if he's got nominated or not, but he should be, in my opinion, and he should win it, because to not only play a great character on film, but play 6 or 7 different personalities within that character is no mean feat, and not every actor could do it, and it really shows his acting ability and versatility. So overall, I'm going to give Split 8.5 out of 10. So there you go. I loved Split. It's one of the best films I've seen in the last 6 months. It's kind of reinvigorated my love for M. Night Shyamalan, and I can't wait to see what he does next, what films he's going to do next, because I think he's back on his game and he'll bring some good films to the movie-going universe. If you've really enjoyed this review, it would be great if you could give it a thumbs up, and definitely comment below if you've seen Split and what you thought of it. But please, obviously, I'm trying to keep this spoiler free, so if you're going to comment in the comments below, try and leave the surprise and kind of details for other people before they go and see it. And finally, please subscribe if you like my content. It really means a lot to me because it shows me that I'm doing something right and kind of I can keep progressing with this. I'm trying to learn every step of the way. And by you subscribing, it really kind of keeps me motivated to keep producing videos for you. So until next time, see you soon. Cheers.